Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're gonna make pizza dough, and pizza dough is this, another rabbit hole, right? We talk about pizza being a rabbit hole, but dough is part of that. And my son, 24, lives on his own with a couple buddies, wants to start making pizza. So he's coming over tomorrow night. We're gonna make some pizza. But I'm making dough today because this is my favorite dough recipe. I won't say it's the best. It's kind of a fluid thing. But man, I really like where this is at. It's in this New York style pizza. And I say in the style because you're going to get people on here who are going to leave comments going, not New York style. I get it. Okay, pizza dough, making pizza dough. I think it's critical to having really good, the best version of a homemade pizza is making homemade dough. So that's what we're going to do today. And dough is this kind of, for me, it's very fluid. I'm always playing around and messing around and trying new things. But then there comes this point where you fall in love with the recipe. And that's kind of where I've gotten with this dough recipe that I'm going to share with you today. And I'll put this down in the description as well. We want our dough balls to be 320 grams each. And I'm doing a hydration of 62%. And then I'm going to do 2.5 grams of fat and 2.5 grams of salt as well. So what we're going to end up with is 957 grams of flour, and I'm using bread flour. I've been educated with comments that the bread flour really is, man, it really works so well. The high, protein of 12.7 really keeps the structure of this dough really good. It really makes it easy to handle, to stretch, to play with. Michael Scott. And I've really kind of fallen in love with it. I've played with some ratios with all-purpose flour. I did figure out from a comment, don't use 00 flour in this type of pizza. So first thing I'm going to do is just get my water ready. And let's tear out this and get our 500, I said 597 earlier, 593 grams of water. I'm doing kind of a medium heat, probably around 95 degrees on the water, just to kind of get that yeast going a little bit. Let me grab my water. Man, 573 on the first try. Let's add a little bit more. I'm at 594 and I'm perfectly fine with that because I don't care. That's why. That's because. Now, there'll be some water left in the glass. You know how that works. I used to think you had to put in water, and I still think this, that you had to put in the ingredients a certain way that kind of help with your dough. Kind of like baking, right? Bread making, dough making is bread making. And you need to put it in a certain order and sequence, and that's the way you do it. And I used to think all my flour in first, and then I would add water little by little. And I had some comments that told me, hey, idiot, you're doing it wrong. And I was like, what the hell are they talking about? And one guy said, for this style of pizza, this New York style of pizza, and by the way, Houston water, this stuff rocks. I mean, next to New York, if you're not in Houston, it may not be as good as mine. That's just because of the water. I'm just kidding. He said, in this style of pizza, what they do in New York, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm sharing what I was told and what I've been doing the last couple times, and I really like the way the dough comes out. All the water is going to go in. The yeast is going to go in. The salt is going to go in. And that is it with a little bit of sugar, with my sugar. And then I'm going to mix that up, let it sit for about 2 or 3 minutes, not real long. And then I'm going to add in all my flour pretty quick. And so let's get started. And I'm going to go with all my water. Boom. Once I get that in, I'm going to go ahead and get in my 2.2 grams of yeast. And the way I'm going to do that is tear this out again. I want this to be pretty much exact with my yeast because it makes a difference. So I'm doing it on the scale. Come on. There we go, 2.2. All right, so I'm going to bring my water back on. I'm going to get my yeast in. All right, got my yeast in, so I'm going to go in with my sugar now. You can use, granulated sugar. I'm just a fan of honey. I learned this early on. It's a sugar that somebody was using, and I like it. So I'm going to go with 11. I want about 12 grams, 12.2. I'm good with that. All right, let's measure out our salt. Told you I'm going 2.5%, so I'm going 24 grams of salt. So now we're going to take our salt. Go ahead and throw that in. Then I'm going to grab a whisk and whisk this bad boy up. All right, we'll let that sit over here for a minute. All right, let's get our flour. So I'm going to go at 957 grams of bread flour. I don't care what you do when you open flour. There's some of it's going to go everywhere. And I used to try to prevent it and said, screw it. All right, let's get our scale on. Make sure this is tared out. I'm going to try to go 500 and then 453 or 457. I'll make this one 455.5. See if I can do that. Now 456. I'm good with that. So that's going to be our total flour that'll go into our recipe. All right, let's get ready to start mixing. All right, so I'm going to grab my water. It's been sitting for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I'll give it another minute or so. All right, so the last thing that's going to go in for us, we've got our flour and our oil, and then our dough is going to be done. You're going to see how quick this comes together. Now, what we are going to do is use a technique. A lot of you may know what it is already, but those of you that don't, it's going to be that auto lease. So we're going to get this dough to where it's kind of shaggy and not quite all pulled together yet. And then we're going to shut it down and let it sit. I usually used to do a shorter auto lease, but on this one, I'm actually doing about 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'll come back and finish the dough. Let's get this mixing. Matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and get our first batch of dough in. Get our first batch of flour in. Get that off there. Let's turn this on. I got to tell you too, I really like this technique. It really makes it easier, you know, as far as how the ingredients need to go to get the result you want. So, I mean, just less thinking, but still great pies. So, pretty happy with that. And here's, by the way, some pictures of some pies that come from my oven with this kind of dough. All right, you can see how, Michael Scott, how wet this is. Oh yeah. Let's go in with some more dough. Some more flour. I don't know why I keep calling it dough. All right. And then, I'm a pretty good guesser. Take my word for it. I really am. So I'm going to guess on about 24 grams of fat. 12. 24. All right, you can see this is coming together pretty quick. It's going to get a little more shaggy. We've got some dry flour on the sides and stuff that'll pull apart here, or pull off the side here in just a second. And I'm going to go in with the rest of this flour. I mean, it's that quick that all the ingredients are in your mixer and going. I mean, it's that fast. We're going to let this go for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to come back, get this dough to a point. We'll look at it. It's going to be kind of shaggy, but then we're going to shut it down, let it do that auto lease process for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'll come back and finish our dough. But let's let this go for about 5 minutes. Okay, we can see how wet this dough looks right here. Michael Scott. Sorry, can't help myself. My wife gets pissed, but hey, big fan. What we're going to do now is just shut this off. I thought it was going to look a little more shaggy, but the water's kind of gotten in there a little wet. Didn't say it. And what we're going to do is shut this down, let that flour start to absorb that water. We're going to let this go for, like I said, about 45 minutes to an hour. We'll come back, we'll look at this dough, and then when we turn it back on, you're going to see how quickly this dough comes together. So let's shut her down. All right, we're going to grab a towel, and I'm just going to kind of place that over and tuck it in like so. We'll let that sit for an hour and we'll be back. All right, we're back. It's been about 50 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and take off our towel, and we can see how already the water has absorbed more. So let's go ahead and turn this on. We'll start here on low, and we can already see kind of how smooth the dough is looking. Also notice how it's starting to pull away from the sides pretty quick. So we're going to go ahead and kick this up one more notch. Put that on 2. And let's go ahead and let's take it up to 3. Let's get ready to get our dough out of here. Let's get this dough hook off. Matter of fact, we get a dough scraper. And we'll kind of clean this off a little bit. So once that's done, I'm going to use a container. Let me grab it. And by the way, I haven't said yet, but this is a 24-hour cold fermentation dough. So you make it the day before you want to use it, which is nice. You know, if you're thinking you want a pizza on Saturday, you can still make it Friday. You're not thinking about that 48 to 72-hour dough that some people make, where it's like, oh crap, I should have made this 2 days ago. This works fantastic. 24 hours, great dough. All right. All I'm going to do is just get a little lubrication, Michael, in my container. I'm using a 6-quart, 6-liter container, and you can use whatever you want, just something that's large enough to hold your dough to give it some room to grow, because we want this to grow a little bit. Now, I'm going to put this on the counter for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, then come back, make our dough balls, and then it'll go into the fridge in our dough ball containers for that 24-hour cold fermentation period. So let's get our dough out. All right, I'm just gonna pick this dough up real quick. Oh yeah. I mean, this is really, if you look at this dough, you can see just in this small amount of working this, how beautiful this looks. So we're just gonna let this kind of sit for, like I said, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then we're going to be ready to form our dough balls and get this ready for tomorrow night's pizza bake. Okay, we're back. Our dough's been out for about an hour and 45 minutes, so as you can see, it's proofed up nicely, and what we're going to do now is just form our dough balls, get these into the fridge for 24 hours, and our dough will be done. We'll be ready to make pizzas. All right, if you watched any of my videos, you know that I have fallen in love with these little restaurant trays, bowls, that you see at a lot of Asian restaurants or anywhere you get soups or rice dishes, things like that. Great for dough balls. All right, let's get this dough out. This is really a nice dough. Oh yeah. Look at the air it's already got in there. Oh yeah, that's a nice dough. Oh yeah. All right, got our scale, got our dough cutter. Based on the recipe I'm using, I should be able to get 5 doughs at 320 grams each. Went a little big on that one, 378. 323. You know what? I'm going to live with that. All right, we're going to just kind of ball this up. Throw her down. Now, you notice I don't have any flour, any oil, any water on my hands. This is just a dough that's, in good shape for handling right now. All right. Tell you what we need to do. We need to get just a drop of olive oil in each one of these containers. And we'll just brush that around a little bit. Maybe I will put a little oil on my hands. Said earlier I didn't need any, but the more this is getting some air on it, I do. It's getting a little tacky. All right. And there's all kinds of techniques for closing the dough on the bottom. I use that, just kind of pinch with my thumb and twist as I go and get it like that, but then finish it off with just kind of getting that surface tension. That's what we're doing here, is we're just using our pinkies and pushing that together on the bottom so that you can see that we have this nice smooth surface, and we want that to be nice and tight. Yeah, I almost said it. And then we're closed on the bottom just like that. In she goes. Another technique some people will use for forming their dough balls is just this kind of folding in onto each other and then turning it over. Then I go right back to my thumb and pinch for that bottom, like that, and then down to get that surface tension. All right, 5 dough balls. We're just gonna kind of brush with the oil that's left on the brush, just on top a little bit. All right, that's our dough. We are done. These are looking really good. I like where this dough is already. You know, you can kind of get a feel as you finish your dough and ball it up, what you kind of think about it. I think tomorrow night when we make some pizzas, this is gonna look really good. So it's gonna handle very well. I think we'll get some nice cooks with this dough. Next week's video, me teaching my son to make pizzas. He's got 5 dough balls here to try to stretch, build, launch, and cook. Let's see how he does. Check out next week's video. Hey, if you guys haven't done so already, please like and subscribe. Really helps us out. Hit that notification bell. You'll get notified when we put out new videos. Really appreciate you guys watching. This is our dough. Gonna be a fun cook. We'll see you guys on the next one.